So hey, I'm Brooke Glover. I'm one of the founders of Swilled Dog Hard Cider out of Pendleton County, West Virginia. Wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are and how we got started. We're Backyard to Bottling is the name of this series, and you can see this is a backyard orchard, and it's just right here next to the house. And we talk about how, I want to tell you a little bit about how we got started and why we think apples are so important and growing apples are so important. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about where we started. We started in 2016 and we were bottling everything. We had apple trees that we had here locally in Pendleton County, and we used all those apples to bottle everything that we did. The first bottle that we ever put out got silver medal in the world's largest cider competition. So people started calling us like, who are you guys? And what's this cider that you made? So it's really cool to see that the apples from West Virginia were just that, the quality was that great and the flavor profile was that great based on the environment. And that really made a big difference, we think, in the quality of the cider. So we decided that when we started this company, we wanted it to be very focused on the apples and quality ingredients. We couldn't find cider on the market that had low sugar. And that was something that we were really interested. That's what we like to drink. So you'll see we planted apple trees here, kind of in the backyard, and these are all cider apples. So everything that you can see behind me, they're all very specific types of apples. They have specific flavor profiles, they have specific sugar content that gives you the right alcohol. That's sort of where we started. And we started with this idea of making great cider, but also making a difference in the communities in which we do business. So that's really important for us to make sure we're giving back. I'll touch on that in just a little bit, actually, on what we do there. But who we are right now, Swilled Dog, we are 6-state distribution. We're majority female and dog owned and still family owned. And we're in 6 different states now. So we're in West Virginia, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, and Florida. And so for us, part of it is educating people and telling people what makes cider different. It's not just, flavored sugar water with some, kind of essence to it. We actually we take a long time to make sure that we're getting the right apple blends and the right flavor profiles. And even in our flavored cider, we use real ingredients. So real pineapple juice instead of just kind of flavoring to it. So that's why you'll see we're a little bit different than a lot of the brands that you're seeing out there now. And so we have actually started a distillery as well, and we're going to be moving into some small batch whiskeys and also some ready to drink cocktails. So you'll see some of that coming up soon. We're going to announce a little bit of that out to the world, but that's where we're going. We started the business here. This is where my husband and his family are from, and we believe in this area. It's not this huge thriving metropolis with hordes of tourists coming through all the time. So we didn't start out with a tasting room. We started here just in the backyard in the basement making the cider and just working to get it out there. And then now that we've grown a little bit, we've decided to set up here in Pendleton County and try to make a difference here and bring people into the area. So that's part of the agritourism that we're trying to develop in the state of West Virginia. And again, like I said, I'll touch more on that in just a few. So where we're going in the future, something that we are working on right now, part of our charitable giving is every year we do something called a West Virginia Scrumpy. And that's all apples donated forage from all around the state of West Virginia. So we do the labor, the bottles, the caps, the labels, the yeast, everything that goes into that bottle, we do pressing, we do all of that. And we sell those bottles, 100% of the proceeds go to charity. Every year that we've been doing it, actually, it's been to mostly animal charities or just kind of local to wherever we're selling it. Like if we do a festival, we'll sell it there. This year we've decided to plant apple trees. So we just want people to know that there's a market for these apples, that people want them. So that's kind of where we're looking for the future with the company. And so that's part of why I'm here talking to you guys today. So I think I just wanted to touch base really quickly on why apples. And, I have a few articles that I'm going to have at the end of this presentation that you can have access to that talk about apples and the economics behind it. West Virginia has a specific geography, topography, the soil, just everything that goes into the environment, the valleys. It's all perfect for apples. And so what happened is during Prohibition, a lot of the apple trees got cut down, and especially places like West Virginia where they needed that quick crop to come back because they were really struggling. A lot of people planted the barley and the rye and the wheat and things like that were quickly able to turn over a crop in about a year. And, and then also the people that were kind of leading the temperance movement couldn't really see everything from far away, and apple trees were kind of a dead giveaway that someone might be doing a little bit of cider on the side. So that's why those got those trees, actually people didn't want to plant them again. So that history was lost in the state of West Virginia. We have the history, we just need to get it back. Part of what we're doing too is we're working with WVU to try to get those apples cataloged again. So that's why we're so passionate about this apple project and getting these apples planted. Cider apples are great. We know that there's a market for it. That's kind of my next point I want to go into. The articles that I sent out actually give you a lot of, or that you'll see at the end, give you the economics behind apples. And it's not just apples that you get at the farmer's market. There's a specific set of, Arkansas blacks. And there are some things, and there's a lot of different crab apples that everyone says are deer apples. Well, they are, but they also make really great cider. So just trying to show people that there is a market out there for it. There's a lot of, I'm on the board of the American Cider Association, and I'm the vice president. And so I get to talk to a lot of cider makers now that I wouldn't normally have had the chance to talk to. And a lot of them are now calling me and saying, hey, West Virginia, do you guys have any apples? We really need apples. And there's just not that quality cider apple here. Now, there are some apples that are hybrid apples, so you can do the dessert apples. A lot of people use those as fillers, or if you're looking for something, a taste profile that's a little more tart, you can use some of those kind of dessert apples, like your Granny Smiths and things like that. Your Wineseps and your Stamens are really good dessert apples that can also sell at the farmer's market. So those are kind of hybrid apples that I think would be really great for people in West Virginia to plant and realize that they can use them as cider apples, but they also are really good in case you can't find a market for it. You can take it to the local farmer's market. But that's something that I could go to these other cider makers and say, yes, West Virginia should be leading the country in apple production. And we could do that. We could be one of the great cider apple states in the world, actually, based on the environment here. But that's just trying to get people to understand that there is that market, and that I can help with sourcing that. And I will tell you that Swilled Dog would be a great candidate for buying those apples from anyone who wants to take that on. So I think, let me see what else I've got here. I got to look at my form here. I think something that we really haven't talked about is doing a good job of becoming a full circle company, and that's growing the apples, pressing them, using the pumice for fertilizer, things like that. We started out in the beginning like that, and we very quickly outgrew all the apples that we were using. So we had to start sourcing everywhere. We were trying to get apples from anywhere we could, and that became really tough to have any sort of volume when you are unsure of the product and where it's going to be coming from, those apples, the quality apples that we need. But we really believe in the idea that a lot of companies are focusing on, which is the agritourism. There's a company up in Michigan that I'm just thinking right off the top of my head, Blake's, and they have all kinds of, they have a huge orchard and they have a huge farm, and they get tourists coming in by the busloads, and they're doing amazing things with cider and showing people that those apples are there and they're being used. And so that's something that we would like to focus on. There's no reason we can't do that here. So I think that just encouraging people to start planting those apples, knowing that there's a market for it, would be a good start. And like I said, Swilled Dog would be a great partner for helping out with that and growing this industry, the hard cider industry in the state. So that's something else we could focus on. And then there's another byproduct of apples that I haven't mentioned yet, besides the pumice that could go to different farmers for livestock or just fertilizer. Might be a little bit higher in sugar for just kind of your main feed for livestock, but vinegar is a great thing that we're seeing. A lot of people are really moving into that. If you don't have enough market for your apples, then you can turn it into vinegar as well. So there's some extra things you can do with these apples if you'd like to plant them. So let's see. A couple things I'd like to talk about as far as planting an orchard. There's the initial capital that goes into it. These trees just don't kind of get planted. You have to have the labor, and you have to buy the trees with the rootstocks. There's some really good rootstocks out right now that the Geneva rootstocks that are really resistant to a lot of the things that we were struggling with in the apple industry before. And so those are really good for the fire blight and some of the pests. So there is that initial investment of the fence you have to worry about, and some of the materials that go around the trees. There is an investment there. And it depends on what kind of tree you're going to be doing. Some of them can yield fruit in just a couple years. Some of them, depending on what kind of tree, can be 5 to 7 years, but you can charge more for that. And you'll see that in one of the articles I sent about the economics of apple growing and specifics of cider apple growing. So you might be spending a little bit more in the initial investment of prepping the soil and things like that, but it really is, it is worth it. There is a market for it for sure. So that labor is something else. That's something that we have had a struggle with, is we're so busy running the cidery that coming out and pruning the trees and making sure that they're taken care of the way that they need to be taken care of it's been tough for us. And as a family, we've tried to do that as much as possible. These trees are doing pretty well, considering we really haven't had as much of a chance to really take care of them the way we like. We just spend a lot of time. Our head cider maker, actually Barry, is also kind of our green thumb, and Debbie, my mother-in-law, she is also a green thumb. So they do a lot of work on the trees, and the rest of the family tries to do a lot of work on the trees. So it is work, but we feel that it's worth it, and it will yield some really great cider here in a couple years when these trees really start to produce. So there is that initial capital investment. There's also the ongoing investment of labor and pest control. Deer continue to always be a problem. I feel like they can jump 50 feet into the air. I don't know how that happens. We keep making it higher, and they just keep on coming. So we have to make sure. Lucy, our dog, actually has helped me the other day. She was out and chased a couple deer out of the orchard. So it's kind of fun to have her around to help with that. But taking care of the pests and making sure that you're watching out for some of the rust that gets on the trees and affects them. It's tough to do. So those are just things you have to think about when thinking about that investment. Let's see. So I wanted to talk about some of the successes and failures that we've had, and I just did a little bit touching on those. But the last thing is the West Virginia Scrumpy that I was talking about earlier. There's an apple drive that we did and that we do every year, and the people of West Virginia really kind of step up. And they donate apples. They let us kind of come in and pick the apples off their tree. We use that to make the scrumpy. And like I said, we give them all the money from that goes back to charity. But we also give them, for every bushel, they get a bottle of cider as well. So it's kind of cool to show people that their apples that they think are just deer apples, and they mow around. And a lot of times people will say, yeah, I was tired of mowing around it, so I just cut it down. And you could actually hear my heart being ripped out of my chest. But they will tear down or cut down these apple trees just because they're a nuisance. Well, if you can show them that there is that product there, that they're making something that is affecting their community, it's really important to show people that. And then they know that West Virginia has this capability, and they're more interested in apples. So I think that's something that we have to do a better job of education and working together with the state agencies and the colleges to make sure that people, like a lot of you, know that there is an opportunity for these orchards, and there's an opportunity for another product that you can sell at the farmer's market. You can eat it yourself if you want, or you can sell it to some cideries around the state and outside the state to make some pretty good money. So I think that's kind of all I wanted to touch base on today, just apples, and again, why they're so important to making that great quality cider. And my contact information should be out there, so please reach out if you have any questions or want to touch base on anything else. Thanks so much.